Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to my humble channel. It's been a while since I've spoken to you all because so much has been going on. I've been so busy. I didn't expect to be so busy, but I am. So it's good to actually be able to sit down and make another video and go over some things that have been happening in my life and the world, etc., etc. You know, the stuff we talk about on my channel. Interesting things. Um, So, okay, some notes I took down probably around the time of the Olympics that I didn't get to make a video about. I'll just quickly go over those because they're quite interesting, and I thought I shouldn't just throw those away. I should still mention them. Um, Around the time of the Olympics, I noted that it was like the Olympics themselves. I had a close look at them, and I did a little bit of a study on it, and I noticed that it was. Guess what it was? It was the festival of Zeus, the god of lightning. Uh, there was a third day sacrifice, third day sacrifices, and it was a 4-horse chariot race. 4 horses, isn't that interesting? Um, and it was around the time of 776 BC that it came about, which is one year before. Oh, sorry, after 777. Isn't that interesting? It was also, there was no women allowed, and there was nudity. It was celebrating the male figure, um, and that's what it was all about, celebrating man. It's funny because the number 776, the number of man, not 7 7, but the 6 it's the number of man. Isn't that interesting? So some connections there. I mean, we know that Zeus is basically Satan. So was this Satan influencing man to have a huge celebration to celebrate himself? In a sense, things about himself. Because outside the Colosseum, there was a giant statue of Nero, depicted as uh, one of those ancient gods resembling Satan. I mean, and that was the Roman Empire. This was the Greek Empire. So I found that quite interesting. I've got something even more amazing. When I was given this work, I had to get a sledgehammer. This is part of a job I had to do. It was a big concrete planter box, if you can imagine, on the side of someone's front steps, and it was full of dirt, about a meter high, and I was tasked to smash up all the bricks, dig out all the dirt, because they were going to build some new stairs or whatever. Anyway, so I've got no problem at all. I had to use a sledgehammer, and I had to jackhammer this wall. And once I'd collapsed it all and took it all apart and put the bricks and stuff over there, and then I started digging out all the dirt. I tell you what, it didn't even sink in when this happened until about a day after. It didn't even sink in. It was just dirt and some roots of some plants that were in there that had died. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it. This thing fell out in the dirt. This thing just fell out and just at my feet. And I picked it up, and I was like, oh, what's that? Is that like a Star Wars figure or something? It was like a Star Wars figure. I picked it up, and I'm going to show you. Can you believe that? It's a depiction. Look, I know there's idol worship. I know all that. Don't put God in a box though. I mean, this thing fell out at my feet. This is like the third time something huge like this has happened to me. I mean, it's happened more than I can even remember, and I'd probably even taken notice of because I didn't even know. But it's not only Christ, he's holding a little boy with brown hair. This thing was speaking to me, in a sense. It was saying, it was like, I've got you, my child. I've got you. Don't worry. Does that not give you goosebumps? This was the only thing that fell out of this huge dirt pit thing. And then I started making all these other like connections with Christ, and you know how he was buried and resurrected, and the roots, just everything. It was like the plant had died, and this is mainly what I wanted to show you on this video. Just holding it and just, I mean, I'm not into idol worship. I'm not saying this thing has power. But I'm just saying the symbology of it. It's just absolutely. I mean, oh. I want to read this passage from the Bible. 1 Corinthians 13:12. And here's a connection I sometimes think about, and I think it could be something. For now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known. Now when it says, for now we see through a glass darkly, I mean, what are you watching right now? I'm filming this with a smartphone. So don't you think, turn your screen off, and then it's a glass and it's dark. And it's kind of like that's how we're understanding a lot more about Christ through our media devices. So much more than you would in the Middle Ages, for example, if you even let alone had access to a Bible or could even read. So now it's like we've got these dark glasses that we look at all the time. And it's interesting that he says, but then face to face, and Facebook on your smartphone. It's just, there's so many connections. It's like, sometimes I'll hear books of the Bible and verses, and I'll be thinking it's talking about right now. It's talking about something right now. It's like it's not even sort of about it or similar to it. It's like, no, it's talking literally about it. I mean, I'm suffering with everyone. Everyone's suffering. Everyone. Except for they're not suffering yet. You know who I'm talking about. Yeah, the people at the tippy top of the pyramid. You know, and the people underneath that, and someone made a good analogy about the pyramid. You know how they see it as like, you know, it goes up to the point and then the eyes at the top and all this. And it's a light and all this kind of stuff. And they said, no, they said they don't realise that pyramid's upside down and they're at the bottom. it's like a funnel down to hell. And I was like, that's a great analogy, that is. So the people who are the slaves at the bottom, i.e. third world countries and you and me, we're at the top. Isn't that interesting? So they're having a race for the bottom, wasting their energy and time doing the wrong thing by humanity. And enjoy that. Enjoy it while it lasts. Time is short for the enemy. Remember that. That's why it's like, we're running out of patience with you. All this kind of talk. Their time is short. The word charity. Now, when you think of the word charity, what do you think of? I mean, before I looked at this, I used to think of, donating a chunk of money to this and that. Oh, look at me, I'm great, I'm donating to charity, and I'm going to let everybody know that's what my business does, and blah, blah, blah. I looked up the actual real definition of it. They tried to fill it in with all this money stuff, but that's all like very superficial definition of it. It actually means kindness and tolerance in judging others. That's charity. Kindness and tolerance in judging others. Doesn't mention money. Kindness and tolerance in judging others. Something to think about. Now, I was, as you know, I'm here in Australia, and there's a lot of chaos going on and all this kind of stuff. The most, one of the most southern states here. Okay, they had, the whole East Coast was having, big chaotic episodes against the powers that be on the streets. And I was watching it closely, and the way they were talking about these people who were out there, and they were saying, they were calling them, how with the media, they always, the news, they put like the inverted commas, what the message is. They were calling them a bunch of anarchists. And at first I'm like, oh, that's not very nice. They're calling them, derogatory names and so on. And I'm like, no, I'm going to look up the definition of anarchist. Without ruler. He who rejects a set hierarchy, an absence of government. They want to be free from coercion. And it's got connections back to the word anarchia, which is Anarkhia, comes from the ancient Greek. Absence of government. Isn't that interesting? And I thought, well, you know what? They're telling the truth for once. That's exactly what they are. They're people without a leader. They're people without they have an absence of government. The way that these powers that be are running the show, it is an absence of government, isn't it? It's an absence of real leadership. It's an absence of what's said to be in place. So, yeah, they were telling the truth for once. Isn't that surprising? they're still talking about camps and things. And at first, it was only for overseas people, and but they're slipping more and more about what they're really about. And also, you've got I noticed in the States, Mr. B, the big brainiac Mr. B, who's in charge of the States. He said that it was the V'd had to be protected from the unV'd. That's what needed to be done. And I thought, well, isn't that crazy? They're not even hiding it anymore. They know exactly what they're doing. I mean, I've spoken to older people around me who've been here a lot longer than me, and they really believe that they're just messing it up. They don't know what they're doing. They've let this thing get out of control and all this kind of stuff. I even had one elderly gentleman, very nice old man, very old. He's around 90. He told me, see, he had quite an interesting life. He owned gas stations, petrol stations, big chains of. I'm not going to say which one, but now he's retiring. You know, he's close to death's door. He knows it. So he's having this house renovated for him, and he walks around with one of those. It's like a little push around seat, and it's like a half a walker and a seat, so you can stop and sit down on it. And he's talking about how he got the V, and this is what it did to him on his second one. And but in his mind, he said the problem was everyone who refused to get it. He said they were the problem. I'm like, you just told me that's what it did to you. And he said and his wife couldn't walk for a while. So now he needs all these like rails and stuff, and he's even put like a little elevator to get up to so he doesn't have to walk upstairs. And he says it's because of his second, you know what. I'm like, where is the logic in these older men? Where's the logic? Like, maybe they've always been like that. I don't know. Maybe they've really got a grip on their minds, the older generation. I mean, they were talking about the generations who signed up to be given a gun and sailed overseas on a boat and to kill foreign people. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. If you want to find peace, ignore the media. Simple as that. You turn that off, listen to your favorite music, walk around somewhere natural, and you'll find that the sky isn't falling yet. Okay? You're going to find peace, because the eyes, the ears, the mouth, it's all entry points for the enemy. So, look, I get guilty of it sometimes. I call it staring into the abyss. And I don't want it to consume me, so I have to get away from it. I've been a nervous wreck. I've been walking around my house just at one point just what's going on? Like, and then you just go find that peace again, and it just centers you. You feel joy in a time of all this turmoil, or so-called turmoil that they're trying to create. It's like watching when I watch them, it's like watching a beached whale, and it's flapping about. I mean, a whale's beautiful, but like it's out of its depth. I look at it like they're a group of about 10 people, and they want to take down this herd of 100 elephants, and they've only got their bare hands too, right? And they've managed to take down one or two in front of the whole herd, and the whole herd's now noticed, and now they're just going for broke, not realizing what a mammoth task they've just undertaken, because now they have to be committed, otherwise it's going to turn on them, which it will. What is freedom to you? What is freedom to you? I notice a lot of these, big riotous sort of activist protest things. It's made up of all kinds, but people, I don't know, it's kind of unison. There's anger towards the authority, but what do they want for the end result? Because I'm telling you now, they haven't all found Jesus. But who am I to judge? I watched this great video. I don't know if you know Charles Lawson. He's quite big on YouTube. I think he's down in Texas, in the States, and he's a very powerful speaker. It's on a channel called Zion 4131, but he gave this great speech about the humanity of Christ, who wasn't here to do a certain thing at a certain time and all this kind of stuff. I mean, he was, but the times that Jesus wept, it was put this way, that God listened to mankind and worked with mankind up until the time that Jesus was born, and then God is Jesus, and then now he's feeling mankind. He's feeling what it feels like to be a man, and all the times he cried over which means that the free will is there, and he's noticed that, oh, look at the choice you made, and it made him cry. Like when he didn't resurrect Lazarus in time, but he did resurrect. But I'm saying, like, that the woman was saying to him, if you'd been here sooner, he wouldn't have even died, which is interesting. Yeah, so now he's feeling all the emotions that a human feels. So mankind's without an excuse and saying, oh, God's up there and he's so powerful, and what would he know what it's like to be like us down here? The ones that he created, well, he came down and was one of us, and he suffered the worst death any man could face. He suffered all the worst of mankind, and he felt the love. He felt the love, and he felt the desperation. But a perfect man he was. I had a Job moment. Desperate, in despair. You know, when Job, he had it all, and the devil said to God, you know, if you took all that away from him, would he still think he was blessed? Would he still praise you? Or would he still be happy to be alive? And he was tested. It wasn't like God took away his hedge of protection so the devil could come in. I felt it was like things were getting real tough. And it was like God was saying to me, do you trust me? And I'm like, yes, of course. But it was like he was saying again, do you trust me? And I'm like, and I had to search myself. I'm like, how much do I trust God? How much do I trust him? And then it was like, I trust him with everything. I just had to. And I did. And it was getting so tough financially. I was out in my backyard and I looked up at the sky and I just went, something's got to give. Something's got to give. Mid-sentence. I'm not even joking. Mid-sentence. Phone rings. Something's got to get. Phone rings. Do you need some work? Out of the blue. It was just, I was literally looking up at the sky saying something's got to give. And I have been absolutely so busy ever since. It's been very, very hard work. It's like so hard on my body, but you know what? I needed it. And not only that, it's been overflowing. And that's why every day it's just wake up and say thank you no matter what's going on. Who knows, if I wasn't crying out like that, he could have just made me wait a few more days and something even better might have come along. Because my old work is starting to pick up again. Now I've got more than enough. I had to ask for a day off because it's more than I can handle. Also, I talk a lot about history on this channel. I talk about World War II and stuff sometimes, and I found it very interesting because I looked up what happened to these men, these dictators throughout the past. We're talking about Stalin and Hitler and Pinochet and Mussolini. We'll start with Stalin. Now, the saying, no rest for the wicked, right? It's funny because they were buried and exhumed. They say that they've got Hitler's skull, and that gets moved around all over the world. Mussolini was, his body was, he was executed and then they were beaten in the streets or something. But he's been exhumed, which means dug up again. And they move the bodies all over the place and want to study them. And I found that interesting, that there's no rest for the wicked. And these bodies don't get any rest. So take note. Those of you in charge, no rest for the wicked. I want to talk about the third temple that has to be built in Israel. and the timing of the escape of the bride and the rapture and all that. I've been sort of keeping up with Ministry Revealed and Interrupts channel. Their videos are so long, I mean, you need a bit of time to watch. I haven't had as much time as I'd like, but I do watch them, and it's quite interesting, just the timeline, how it's changed so much. And they're saying there's nowhere in the Bible where it says the Great Tribulation is 7 years long. And the way it's explained now, that it's 3 sets of 7. Like the first 7 was from 2014 to now, and then the next 7 is the first half of the Great Tribulation, and then the second 7 is when halfway through that the Antichrist takes over the temple, because the way they're explaining it is it's the escape of the bride, then it's Christ on earth for 40 days, and it's just like that Messiah Netflix series they had, and the Muslims are going to call it the Antichrist and all this. They're going to call it the Dajjal or whatever, and they're going to think Christ on earth for 40 days is like their Antichrist, and it's literally Christ appearing on earth. And if you watch that series on Netflix, you'll see there's a lot of Christ resemblance. I mean, he's appearing here and there all over the earth. He's just, the media is going crazy trying to follow him around the earth, and now they've got all the FBI and stuff all trying to hunt him down, and they can't hold him down because he's the Messiah. And if you think about it, what I just said, I mean, they say they can build the temple in a week or whatever, but they're not even close. Go look at the Temple Mountain right now, and it's not even close. They've got the materials prepared, whatever, but it'd just be done by now. And it makes more sense in this timeline that Ministry Revealed and Interrupts is talking about, and Sword of God, and it just makes so much. It just makes everything fit in, because you think about that now, and they're saying how for that first 7 years of the second 7 is Israel is attacked after the 40 days or during, I don't know, I can't remember exactly what he said, but so Israel's scattered amongst the nations because they're all just running for their lives. They're just getting out of there. They're getting attacked because they're sort of beating their chest and saying they're invincible and all this kind of stuff. But their enemies is growing by the day. Even people who were loyal to them in the past have turned on them. So to me, it just makes way more sense. And it does fit in a lot better. It's like, and they come back after the second set, once they've been scattered, in the middle of the 2 sevens, which is the Great Tribulation. They can come back at the end of that first 7 of the Great Tribulation. Then they can come back and build the temple, and then 3.5 years from there is when the Antichrist takes over, and it's actually the Antichrist who, or I can't remember who that makes that covenant. And then everything seems, oh great, we're back in Israel and we're building the temple and everything's great. And then 3.5 from there, the Antichrist steps in. And then it gets absolutely horrific, and then that's only when the mark can come. Because I'm watching a lot of channels and they're saying, the mark, it's this, it's the V, it's the V, it's the V. And I'm like, I'm sorry, okay, you might disagree with me, you might say, oh, but this and that, and you go inside the human body and it does this to this part of the body. You know, I've heard all these kind of arguments. I'm like, no, it's going to be way more obvious than that. Ministry Revealed went as far as to make a study on the mark. He did a really good, and he found some connection to literally Xi Jinping, saying that something about Xi stigma, he did some translation, and it says Xi's stigma, and that was literally going to be the mark. It was to do with China and Xi Jinping. I mean, look at China now. They're in Afghanistan. They've taken over, and Taliban's their best buddy. So, aren't they just making their way toward the Holy Land? Hasn't Biden just cleared the path for China to come on through and control the Taliban and leave behind all your equipment? I mean, it's crazy. You know, I'm not saying I'm right about all this. I'm just saying it just makes a bit more sense to me. It just makes way more sense. Okay, so here in Australia, you know, we've got all this stuff going on, which the world's taking note of. I noticed we've got we've got a number of states. You might call them provinces from other parts of the world. There's two below me, two states. One is New South Wales, and the other one is Victoria. And I noticed that the harshest lockups in New South Wales are predominantly Middle Eastern. Turns out the premier, they call it, or you'd say governor in America, she is Jewish. And the person that she's come down hardest on are Middle Eastern. Interesting. And the state below her, Victoria, they're coming down hardest on the Jew. Just saying what I'm saying, that's what they're doing. That's very interesting. Very, very interesting. Still, money is the root of all evil. This is why these people are making these decisions, and they're also part of some club. They're playing a game. But when I hear about Jesus crying over Jerusalem, this is not a game. It's not a game. You've got the devil, okay? What's the devil always doing? He's rushing you. He's impatient. He's always saying things like time is up and this is your last chance. He has no mercy. Your time is running out. Make a decision now, okay? And then you got God, the creator of the universe, the controller of the great machine. What's he? He's patient. He's long suffering, full of mercy, wants to give you life, wants to give you peace, wants to give you joy, because you're his creation. He didn't create you to be suicidal. He didn't create you to not speak, breathe. It's another interesting connection to what's going on now, you know, with the whole the breath of life. God breathed into his nostrils. Go stand on top of a hill and breathe in. And out. Say, God gave me that. Didn't he? Use it. When I think of the Jews, I've been watching quite a bit on their weddings and all kinds of stuff about the Jews, and they are very, very intelligent people. They know it. God allowed it. He wants them to be very smart, because they are very, very clever. But you know what? That means they're given no excuse not to know who the true Messiah is. You're just passing on by. September 11 anniversary. What's going to happen this time? Have you ever been anywhere near someone who has passed away? Might be someone that you're very close to all of your life. It could be a stranger. For me, the most profound incident that happened to me with death, I was working in a Mexican restaurant years ago. I used to serve drinks at the bar, and I used to be able to watch over the whole restaurant. And there was a man, and he was sitting with a big group of people, and he was, slightly overweight. He started choking, and the lady next to him, I think the people either side were like, "Oh no, what's going on?" And then, as I came out of the bar to go towards him, he started falling off his chair onto the floor, and I was like, I don't know what I was thinking. I said, "Okay, quickly put him on his side," and I made sure the ambulance was on the way. And the people with him, they were freaking out. A lot of people just went outside, and we cleared the area, and I looked at the man, and I knelt down beside him, and I held his hand with both hands like this, over his hand, and I was looking him in the eyes, and I wanted to see where he was going, like what was going to happen with him. I'm like, are you going to die? Are you going to stay with us? And I was praying like stay with us. But then there was something in me just like, no, he's not going to make it. You're not going to make it. And I was looking at him in the eyes, and he slowly, it's like the room went silent, and or people were talking, or something was going over there with the phone, and they were calling the ambulance and all that. But it was like we started talking spiritually with each other. It wasn't like we weren't talking, we were just like looking at each other, and we were talking, and I was saying to him, "You're going to a much better place. Go be with the Lord." And he looked at me, and it was like he'd realized, this is it for me. And he was like looking at me like, and then he just looked above me, and then that was it. So about 3 to 5 minutes later, the ambulance showed up, and they came in, and they were freaking out, and not freaking out, they're professional, but they had the defibrillators. Is that what you say? Yeah. Going on him, and I stood back, and I knew he'd already gone, and I was standing back in the bar, away from it all, just watching everything. And I thought, no, he's not coming back. And they took him, and they were working on him the whole time, the whole way and they couldn't get him back. But I already knew. And then after that, we had a counselor. She said, "Oh, listen, I'm a human, I'm a psychologist, all this kind of thing. If you ever need counselling," she says, because she saw me holding his hand and all this, then feel free to contact me. She gave me a card and everything. And I said to myself, no, I don't need counselling. This is what life is all about. This is what life is all about. I could tell you about, we had a Brazilian working in the kitchen, quite a funny young lad. He came out with a big plate full of birthday cake, and he was eating it. And I said, is that man's birthday cake, the one that was just died? And he's like, yeah. And he's scoffing it down with a fork. And I said, but it's his. And he said he doesn't need it anymore. He's not going to eat it. Which, you know, you'd probably freak out in the Western world if someone said that. But I understood, because it's from Brazil, and death is just happening all around you in Brazil. So they learn to get over it pretty quickly. But at the same time, you don't want to be heartless. I mean, you got to wonder where they go and stuff. I mean, we know. I mean, we try to be 100% sure, but you've got to have times where you're like, you know, what's the final destination? But learning about the final destination is just, it makes sense. So it's kind of reassuring. Have you heard the term inviting the vampire in? And what the consequences of doing so are? If you invite, the vampire comes to your door for dinner, he says, oh, may I come in? And you say yes. Well, when he comes in, now he's got permission, he's crossed the threshold, and now he's got permission to have his way with you. And that's the way I see the powers that be. It's like they're behind this wall. They can see us, but they haven't been given permission. Just like when Christ, I mean, when you say Christ, but God took away Job's hedge of protection. That hedge, they're behind it, and they can say everything they want. They can demonstrate their power all they want. They can do all that, but they can't really do anything unless you invite them. So it reminds me of that movie Lost Boys, where if you invite, they invite, his mum invites the vampire in, not knowing that he's a vampire, and they have to fight him and all this kind of stuff. But you know, there's a lot of like crucifixes and stuff in that movie. But Lost Boys, it means they're lost. You know, you got lost and the saved. And that movie's all about vampires, but you know, is it really about that? It's more like people who are into all that, you know, garbage, satanic garbage, really. So the best songs I've heard lately, they're just so uplifting. They're by a man that was John Lennon. Now, if you get a chance, give him a listen. Two fantastic songs, okay? One's called Free as a Bird, and the other one's called Out the Blue. If those songs don't give you goosebumps, I just hear God in it. I do. I always hear, you know, you've got gospel music, I love it. You've got hymns and stuff, I love it. But also, I hear God in a lot of other things. Like I've been watching a lot of Clint Eastwood movies from the, I believe they were made in the 70s. Fantastic. There's so many, they literally, they go by Bible stories. Like it's a Western, but it's like they're Bible stories. Like there was one I was watching, and it was like they were praying for miracles, and he shows up, and their life just goes up and up and up when he shows up. All their enemies, and he strengthens everyone, and fantastic. If you get a chance to watch a Clint Eastwood Western, I recommend it. Some can be a bit risque, you know, like, you know, he's rolling around the hay with a woman or whatever. But you know, that's life, isn't it? Back when men were men and women were women, it's all pretty straightforward. So I've been watching a bit of the Rapture, or the Escape of the Bride expected date. Of course, I'm not going to say any dates. I said a while ago, you can go by all the feasts and all this kind of stuff and try to understand it like that. It's all very confusing because people will lead you in multiple directions. Just finding some peace and some joy is a good start. You want to make your life as simple as possible, don't you? Like, I saw a guy in a sports car, and it was fantastic. It was the latest Lamborghini, but I thought, you know what? He will get sick of that. And those things cost you a house. So imagine putting all your energy into chasing these things. If I just work another 6 years, I'll have that, or whatever, you know. You've got such a relationship with money, and it can really consume all of your energy and your joy. Like, I want to work, but not every day. You've got to have you time. You've got to have reflection time. If you don't have reflection time, you're just a slave. You've got to have just you and the Lord, and either just you and your family, and the Lord will be amongst you. And just remember, He's holding His children. He loves them more than you do. This is crazy how I found this. But that's how the Lord works. Anyway, guys, I don't want to go on too long, but I'll see you soon, hopefully. We'll keep an eye on everything. I'm watching the moon and Venus in the western sky at sunset at the moment. Incredible. Venus could not be brighter. It's so bright, and it's all happening in Virgo, near Spica, which is, you know, the wheat. It's all happening. We had a fireball raining down in over my state last night, and it was just going on and going on and going on. I don't think it was like debris. It was like space debris or something. It was just falling out of the sky, and it just went on forever. You know how you have a fireball and it's just a streak, or you have like a meteor and it's just a streak. This was just, it was raining. There was like about 6 pieces amongst it, just all raining down on fire. So, man, get out there, have a look around, talk to people. I'll see you next time, guys. It's been great talking to you again. God bless you all. Peace and love from Australia. And I'll speak to you soon. Bye.
It's a red comet.
What is that? What's that?
What is it?